right, so we're going to look at clearing some fractions in here. Now we can actually solve this equation by doing the usual thing. Since we want to isolate x, we can subtract 2/3 from both sides, and we can find our answer that way, which is perfectly fine. I'm going to use this as a basic example, though, of how we could go about doing this a little more quickly, especially when it gets a little more complicated. So let me start off with this one, okay? So understand that this is just another way of solving equations that have a bunch of fractions in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this, and this would be a lot easier if I could actually get rid of the fractions, right? If I didn't have fractions, this would be an easier equation. So I want to make one step or make one adjustment and make sure that I don't have any more fractions. I can do that by multiplying everything by a number that will get rid of the fractions. Now I can multiply this by 7, everything by 7, but I'll still have fractions. That won't help me. I just made up a 7, right? The thing you should look for is the least common denominator, or any common denominator between the fractions. So between these two, I can multiply everything by 6. That's the least common denominator. Right? You can do 12, you can do any multiple of 6. If you tried to multiply this by 3, it would work for this one, but it wouldn't work for this one. You'll still have a fraction. So let's go ahead and go through this. Everything means everything, even the things that don't have fractions. So 6 times x is 6x. Plus 6 times 2/3. Let me do that right over here. See if you can see that. 6 times 2/3. That's really 6 over 1. Right? So when I multiply that together, I get 12 over 3, which is really just 4. So by multiplying these two, I get 4 equals, let me do something similar for that. I have 5/6 times 6. I'm going to do 6 over 1. That's 5/6 times 6 over here. Now, when I multiply that together, I get 30 over 6, or just 5. So this is equal to 5. So after multiplying everything through by this common denominator, I no longer have fractions. All right, from here, it's just like everything else. Let me subtract 4 from both sides, canceling those, so that 6x will equal 1. Divide both sides by 6, and x will equal 1/6. All right, let me do another example a little more quickly. It's going to be a little more aggressive. Let me slide down a little bit. It's going to be a little more aggressive. Let me do it really quickly, though. I have 8/5 x minus 3/2 x equals 1/5. All right, that's an 8. Well, I see a 5 and a 2 are all my denominators, so let me multiply by a least common denominator of, say, 10. When I multiply these two, I get 16x, just go ahead and do that math, minus 30 over 2, or 15x. That's right, good. And that's going to equal 2. 10 over 5 is 2. So all I did was multiply each of those things. Okay, good. Let's do this. 16 minus 15 is 1x, and that's a 2. So x equals 2. So the only quick thing I did was 8/5 times 10, right? Let me cancel this out. These are getting too big. So 8 times 2 is 16 over 1, or just 16. I also did 3/2 times 10 over 1, which is really 30 over 2, which is 15. And I also did 1/5 times 10. 1/5 times 10 all over 1. That's going to give me 10 over 5, or 2. Clearing fractions.